How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Athleteshubpod podcast. Back again. Also, Flexx is back as well. And we're right in the middle of the World Cup fever, as they say, man. And Flexx, I mean, right as we record right now, the group stages are done. We're into the knockout phase of the competition. And we thought we'd just do a bit of a roundup on the group stage of the World Cup so far and discuss some of the key moments. But yeah, first of all, have you sort of like seen the World Cup so far, Flexx? I know we've covered a few of the games and a few of the moments, but overall, what have you thought of the World Cup so far?
I mean, my biggest gripe, of course, is the timing of the games and stuff like that. But outside of that, I think it's been pretty positive. I think the games itself have been good. We've been seeing games where there's been large score lines. We've seen games where it's been 0-0, but edge of your seat 0-0 games, right? And so I think it's been good. I feel like teams or nations, so-called smaller nations, have represented themselves quite well in the tournament, even qualifying into the round of 32. So I think in all so far, I would say it's been a success. Few dodgy refereeing decisions, if you ask me, or maybe no decisions, which make the decision to not make a decision dodgy. But yeah, that's how I've seen it so far.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think I saw a stat the other day, actually. I think this is the most World Cup group stage goals we've ever seen in the World Cup tournament. And I think that makes sense because I think this is the most teams we've seen participate at our World Cup so far.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you're right. I think it's been a World Cup so far with really dramatic moments. I think there's been some decent underdog stories as well, which we'll talk about. And I think overall, it's probably at the start you might say took a bit of time to kind of get into that sort of flow of being a World Cup. But we've had great moments so far, and again, we're at the knockouts now, and this is where it really steps up in terms of quality, in terms of real tense, moments, and eventually leading up to a winner there. But yeah, like I mentioned, intro guys, we're going to talk about a few of the key moments so far that we've seen. And I think we've got to start with this guy here, Mr. Leo Messi. Created history. Broke the goal scoring record at the World Cup with 18 goals right now, and yeah, what can you say about Leo Messi, man, Flexx? Because the guy just keeps on stepping up for Argentina. We spoke about the 2022 World Cup and him being instrumental in terms of getting Argentina to the final and scoring the goals in the final, which led to them going to penalty shootout, but again, them winning the World Cup. But yeah, 18 goals at World Cup. I mean, the guy shows no signs of slowing down, to be fair. This might be his last World Cup, but yeah, what can you say about the guy, Flexx, man? He just keeps on breaking records, keeps stepping up for Argentina,
It's not much you can say, to be honest. I mean, I would say it's just service resumed as normal, to be fair. There's not is it surprising that he does what he does? Not really. No. I mean, he is what he is, and he'll keep doing what he'll do. I mean, all we want to see now is to know, well, how far can Argentina go? Will they make it back to the finals and win it again? That is the question. I think maybe performances and stuff like that. I mean, look, it's just to be expected.
I think even against, was it Algeria, he came off the bench and he scored the free kick. And again, he's not even starting the game, but he's come off the bench. And again, when you've got Leo Messi in your team, right, and you're right, I think it's a case of can Argentina actually win the World Cup? And I didn't really have them in my favourites to win the World Cup. But listen, you look at them being champions at the moment. They've got Leo Messi, who's a talisman clearly. And they've got warriors in the team. Argentina, South American teams have always got warriors. And I think their manager came up with a quote saying that we're here to retain the World Cup. Like, they believe that they're going to get to the final and they're going to win it. And again, when you've got Leo Messi in your team, again, they can achieve anything, to be fair. But what have you made of the comparisons between like him, Mbappe, Ronaldo? Because I don't know if you saw the interview, Ronaldo was asked post-match when he scored his couple of goals, and he just walked off when they mentioned Leo Messi. What have you made of the comparisons between them both?
I mean, the comparisons are going to be forever, right? So I think they're just bored of it, really. And when we actually look at it, you just think, do the journalists not have better questions to ask? You've been asking the same question for the last 20 years. It's a bit boring now. What I mean? So it's like, find something else to ask, talk about something different. We all know that there isn't really much to compare between them. Like, they're just not the same. And they all have different agendas, I guess. If you look at it, Ronaldo's chasing 1,000 goals, Messi is just being Messi, Mbappe is, if you're comparing him to those two, I mean, it's not even a comparison, right? He's making his way. Just let it be what it is, man.
Yeah, you're right. I think one thing they've both got in common is that they're probably two of the greatest players that ever play football. I think that's the thing clearly that they've got in common there, right? But no, I think you're right. I think Messi does what he does, and I think they're just different players playing different ways. And yeah, again, I think for me, it's a case of let's just celebrate these two whilst they're still playing. In terms of instead of actually always kind of having that comparison. And again, because when they're gone, they're gone. Do you know what I mean? It's like when Federer and Nadal stepped away from tennis, right? It just wasn't the same after that. So we've got to celebrate them while they're here, to be fair. But Argentina, I think they're playing Cape Verde in the next round. Okay, so that should be interesting. We'll talk about Cape Verde soon. But another guy, as you mentioned him before, Kylian Mbappe, he's trying to chase that goal scoring record. Currently with 16 goals at the moment. Do you think he'll break that? Do you think he'll surpass Messi?
I mean, he'll 100% surpass Messi. It just depends on if it's going to be in this World Cup or the next.
Yeah.
So he will get that record, rest assured. But it's just a matter of when, as opposed to anything else. So we'll see. I don't see Messi not scoring, throughout the rest of the tournament, unless if Argentina get knocked out at some stage. So unless if that happens, and then Mbappe and France are still, carrying on, then he could get it at the end of this tournament. But if Messi and Argentina are still in, because Messi takes the penalties, Messi takes the free kicks, Messi scores from long range, Messi scores from close range. I mean, it's all there, isn't it? Right?
Scoring for fun, really, isn't it? Just scoring for fun at this point.
At this point, so we'll see. Look, it's Mbappe's to have, whether it's this tournament or the next.
Yeah, for sure. I think Mbappe definitely stepped up, and we mentioned prior to the tournament, this is a tournament where he always steps up in. He's a big game player for sure. Again, look at the 2018 World Cup final. He was instrumental in them win the tournament there. 2022 gets a hat trick in the final, and they still don't win it, right? So this guy seems as if when it comes to the World Cup stage, right, he's built for these moments. That this is his tournament, this is his time to shine. And again, him being still very young, at his peak right now, there's no reason why he can't break that goal scoring record. And if he keeps up at this rate, there's no doubt that he'll probably do it. I think the Golden Boot, probably looking at Messi and Mbappe, those two, you might say Harry Kane as well, but I think those two, Mbappe and Messi, are the ones who are leading that contest to see who wins the Golden Boot.
About, like the likes of Dembele, who just dropped a hat trick for fun. There's players out there that are putting numbers on the board, but I think again the media.
I feel like the Dembele great player. I think probably in the Champions League final didn't have his best 90 minutes there, but I also look at that match where Dembele scored a hat-trick, and then look at Norway, and they changed a lot of the team, and they just didn't get going. Norway just didn't turn up in that game. But again, if you look at all Dembele's goals, right, they're all quite similar. Right hand side, cut in and shoot, and Norway not at one point stopped that from happening. So again, Dembele was fantastic, along with Elise, who was brilliant.
From happening, that's the question. You know what he's going to do, but can you stop it? It's like Iron Robin. He's going to cut in and put it top bins. It's like Michael Elise. He's going to cut in and put it top bins, but you can't stop it. So for me, I don't buy into the idea where people say, like you just mentioned, Norway just didn't turn up. I think whether they turn up or they didn't, he could still do that. It makes no difference, So that's just how I look at it.
Dembele's a great player. I mean, I think again, it's clear against the Ballon d'Or winner, a standout player in their team. But I think you look at the France team, and they've got so many great attacking players going forward. Again, Elise, who was brilliant. I know in the Senegal match, that through ball to Mbappe where he scored moments of brilliance like that, magic moments. So definitely got a lot of players in their team who can definitely. I think so far they've been a team that you're looking at them from an attacking standpoint, like they're scary. Do you know what I mean? And Doué came off the bench and scored against Norway as well. So they've got a lot of just options when it comes to the attacking play. And I think you put them as your favourites to win the World Cup in the preview. And it's clear to see why. Because if you've got Dembele scoring a hat-trick in the game, if you've got Mbappe scoring goals as well, you've got Doué coming off the bench. I mean, yeah, scary at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, again, and they haven't really been tested even going the other way. How good is their defense, their goalkeeping, and things like that. So we'll see. They're expecting.
I think Senegal could have had them though. If you remember in the game, right? Senegal had chances to score in that game.
They did. They had chances, and they didn't take them. So we'll see. The tournament's only going to get harder as the rounds go on.
Yeah, I agree, man. But yeah, France at the moment, probably in that group stage, they're from attacking perspective, they're looking very, very dangerous. And again, you wouldn't bet against them, going all the way that they're playing at the moment. But this is the World Cup. Upsets can happen. Again, we've seen underdog stories, and I think there's no better one so far than probably Cape Verde. And yeah, Flexx, man, Cape Verde didn't lose a game in their group. They drew against Spain, drew against Uruguay. You're probably thinking Spain, the European champions, Uruguay, a real tough South American opponent. Dogged will make it difficult. They didn't lose a game. And probably before the tournament, right, you're probably thinking, okay, they're probably going to finish bottom of their group. This is their first World Cup. And you probably think maybe the whole occasion will get to them, right? But yeah, it's been far from that. They produced great performances. And yeah, I go back to Rodri's comments when they drew against Spain. It was just pathetic from Rodri, to be honest. I mean, this is a team that's coming in the first World Cup. Real to a man, tactically and defensively, they were brilliant. And I guess they've continued that in all their games, right? They've been very difficult to play against. So I find it really interesting how they do against Argentina, to be honest, because if they carry on doing what they're doing, then there's no reason why they can't cause another upset.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they don't get starstruck by the whole Messi, being there, and maybe that's their World Cup final. We got to play against Messi. We don't care what happens, But look, they never lost a game, but they never won a game, and so going into a game with Argentina, that's going to be a tough one. So there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser, in this round of 32. So it'll be interesting to see how long and how well their defense can hold up, because that's not going to change, right? And Argentina have players just like Spain did, but they have, probably the greatest player we've ever seen in football who can unlock whatever he decides to unlock, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't know what time that game is being played, but hopefully it's being played at a favorable time where we can, watch it and not have to catch the highlights.
Yeah, I think this game I don't know if I can see it right now, but yeah, I think the game is probably going to be on later hours, as you mentioned before. When it comes to the World Cup at the moment, we're just trying to find the right times to kind of stay up and watch these matches. I'm just sure if I can find it here now. So yeah, it's on Friday at 11 p.m. in the UK. So,
so that can be watched.
Yeah, I think that's one to stay up to watch. I do feel like Cape Verde, the way that they approach the games, you're right, they're not going to change their approach because it's worked for them so far. But again, you're right, they've not won a game. But I think some teams, when it comes to the World Cup, right, they're going to ride their luck. They're going to be defensive and say, okay, can we get it to extra time? Can we get it to potentially a penalty shootout? And so I don't know, something's telling me we're going to see another major shock in this World Cup, whether it's from Cape Verde or another team. But something's telling me we're going to see another major shock. But again, you're right.
I think it might be Congo. I think
England.
Look, man, Congo have got a lot of players that are, in fact, I think all their players pretty much play in Europe. And they're not just playing at playing in Europe and playing for sides that aren't good. They're playing at really good sides in Europe, so very good players on that side. I feel like even Ghana, we can do something and pull off a surprise in our game. So for me, I think I wouldn't at this point even look at those nations and say upset. I think it's just you don't know about us. That's why it's perceived to be an upset. So, I mean, you mentioned Cape Verde against Spain, but we know Cape Verde during the AFCON and whatnot, they played very well. So it's not a surprise. They can play. And they can set themselves up to be a certain way. So, yeah.
I think you're right. I think African teams are always going to be awkward for European teams, like we mentioned previously. I think they just have a different way of playing. When it comes to strength, speed, they can cause problems for teams, right? But you're probably saying which we'll talk about in a minute, actually, with Ghana, but look at crucial moments and crucial times in their games, right? And it might come down to maybe a decision that's been made in the final third, or maybe a lack of concentration that costs you a goal. Because when you enter the round of 32 now, right, it's a different level. It's a step up. Now it's knockout football. So there's no room for error at all. And I think maybe with African teams, as much as and I think Cape Verde, what they've done well is they showed a lot of discipline, right? They showed a lot of great discipline in their matches. But as you said, when it comes down to the round of 32 and it's time to step up now, I think that's got to go to another level. And there's no room for error at all at this point, right? And I think one moment for me that was great in the World Cup was, Ghana's last-minute winner against Panama and Caleb Yerin-Chi scoring that 95th or 96th minute winner. That was a really important win because you look at how, for us, how we kind of ended the group, right, losing to Croatia. If we don't win that game against Panama, then we don't really qualify, do we? So I think that was a major moment. Listen, like I mentioned just now, Ghana lost to Croatia in the last group game. What did you make of that, by the way? Because we didn't speak about it.
I'm not a fan of the pragmatism in the first half, and then all of a sudden you can switch it on. Like, it's a bit too late. I think you've got to have a mixture of being pragmatic and then also being clinical in the final third. It's got to be, you've got to kind of pick and choose your moments. You can't just stay one way for a good 70, 75 minutes or whatever, and then because they score their goal, then we come back into it, and then now they score, but it's too late to do anything about it because we've been a certain way throughout the whole game. And it's a hard one to call, to be honest. I mean, going to now play is it Colombia, right?
Yeah.
And so I just don't. Well, look, it's possible. You can sit back, and we've seen it throughout the tournament so far. You can sit back, be resolute, and maybe drag it out into penalties. But the moment they get one, then now you have to come out and try and play, and it might just be too late. That's just how I see it. But
you're right, Lex. You're right. I think the approach has got to be different. I think in the group games you can get away with that, right? Because you're trying to accumulate points to qualify. But when it comes to knockout football, as you mentioned, if you go with a certain approach throughout 80 minutes, right? If you then concede, you haven't got that much time to score a goal. And remember, you're committing men forward. Your position team might have counterattacks where you leave spaces open. So I think we have to be a bit more brave against Colombia, right? And I don't know. I looked at the Croatia game, and I agree with you, but I don't think the approach will change, Flex. I think he'll still go the same. I think that's his identity. Now, we talk about teams and identities, right? I think what he's done is Carlos. He's come in there with a little amount of time to prepare the team. But what he's managed to do, he's managed to build a way of playing, an identity, which is stay solid at the back, ride your luck at times, and then in latter stages, try and score a goal or cause problems. I don't see that approach changing too much. Because defensively, to be honest, to his credit, I don't think Ghana were that bad. I think against the corner kick, right, that was a lack of concentration. And that's what I'm talking about, the levels at this in the round of 32. There's no room for error. But I think defensively, they're all right. I think going forward, you can still ask questions, say we can do a bit more. Like IU has to do more to get in the box, to be on end of crosses, because there's no presence.
We say that, but he's the same person taking long-range free kicks. Is there no one else that can kick the ball 20 yards? Like, he doesn't need to be the one to take those free kicks. You're the striker. You're supposed to be on the end of things. Put yourself about. You're good at headering the ball. Let one of the, just to kick the ball? Let one of the centre-backs or the defensive midfielder put the ball into the mixer so that you can be there and cause havoc, and do what you got to do. You mentioned the corner and the concentration. For the life of me, I don't understand how we didn't have men on the post. You would think that, why would you be doing man-to-man marking with nobody on the post? Because if there was a man on the post, he kicks that away.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. So we'll see. Like, there's no margin for error. But you know
what is, Flex, though? Like, it comes down to just the naivety in it. Because remember, we scored, was it 2 minutes after they scored from the corner? We scored the equaliser, which VAR got intervened with it. And then 2 minutes later, we have a corner and they scored. That's the point. You can't score a goal and then concede straight after. That's the difference, right? And you mentioned about the people at the post. Tactically, we've got to get that correct as well, right? Because these European teams, like Croatia, again, they're not the same team they were 5-6 years ago, but it's still an experienced team. They've still got winners in their team. They still know how to get results. But we probably lack that. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the last minute chance when Fatul goes in on goal? He could just square it, and then he blasts it over the bar.
It's stuff like that I don't get. I mean, I do like that. Like, he should be starting games, if you ask me, because I think he's in the last 2 games he's come on against England and then against the Croatians. He's been a bright spark. Now, I don't know if they see him as someone who's more of a finisher as opposed to a starter or what have you, but he beats a man and he's a constant threat going forward. So I feel like because we lack that threat with the likes of IU and maybe whoever else plays on the left side, we should reconsider what that looks like going into the next game. Because again, I'm from the point of view that we be defensive in parts, but then also play attacking football in parts as well. Don't just try to drag the game out until the last few minutes and then try and turn it on like it's going to work. Because when you do go and attack, you leave spaces, you leave gaps, and then you could be punished, and Colombia will punish you. Yeah.
No, you're right, man. You're right. I think that game's going to be interesting. But you're right. I think if we can take a bit more of a risk going forward, we've got players in there who can cause havoc for sure. We've seen that in the latter stages of the group games. But also, I'd probably say that the players, when they get into those positions, there's got to be a bit more composure and a bit more quality when it comes to the decision making, right? And Ayu's got to be if he's playing, be more of a presence in the box, hold the ball up, get the end of crosses, stuff like that. Otherwise, I think, as you mentioned, Colombia will definitely punish us in the round of 32. But listen, moving on to England, they qualified with a win over Panama, 2-0 win. I think it's not been great from England. There's been games where they've been a bit on and off and hit and miss at times, and I think the Panama one was a bit of a hard grind in the first half, but they managed to get the win. But these two, Bellingham and Kane, they've stepped up for England. We spoke prior to the tournament, and Bellingham is one of those players who is built for big moments. You look at this tournament, you look at the Euros in 2024, steps up in big moments, gets the goals that helps England to progress. Again, in this tournament, scored the first goal against Panama, scored against Croatia after half-time. And Harry Kane now is England's all-time leading goal scorer at the World Cup. So far, so good for England. What have you made of them so far?
I mean, look, man, at the end of the day, it's all about just getting results. Performances are nice, but you just want to get points on the board and get into the next round. And I don't think anyone should have any real complaints about, how things have gone so far. We got to remember that a lot of these boys play in top leagues, hard leagues, many games throughout the season. And so when you do come into the World Cup, it might take a little bit of time to get going, and that's kind of what we've witnessed. I hope that the journalists, the media, and all those that have been saying that Bellingham shouldn't start should now understand why he is next to Kane our biggest player. That's just facts. Whenever we've needed a goal or we needed something to happen, at least for England, it's always Bellingham that steps up. Always, And so I feel like, let's see how it plays out in the next game. Hopefully from a team perspective, they can get it together. I'm not sure if that double pivot of Rice and Anderson. I don't think that works. I don't know. I don't think that's the right balance. They're too alike, if you ask me. They're too similar. So I think that needs rethinking. But at the same time, they haven't lost the game. So maybe nothing needs to change. And I feel like Rashford is better coming off the bench than starting a game. If you ask me, I feel like there's something in that where I think he's better off the bench. Saka is definitely not fit. So I don't know what they do with him. That's a situation. And the back line, well, I think you've got to keep Gehi and Konza. RJ is not fully fit, so I think they probably play Jed Spence out on the right, and then they'll play O'Reilly out on the left, and then you just keep it going that way. But so far, it's solid.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, do you think, touching on Bellingham, do you think it's baffling though? Because why would people, you mentioned the journalists in the media, right? And this has been going on for months where they've suggested that Bellingham shouldn't start for England and, he's got an attitude problem. But I'm looking at Bellingham, right? And as I've mentioned, right, you said, this guy steps up when the country needs him the most. I'll go back to the Slovakia game in Euros. He scores that overhead kick, gets his extra time, and England get through to the next round, right? Eventually. Look at the Croatia match. Not really good at half-time. He comes on, scores after half-time. Again, against Panama, struggling to break the deadlock. He steps up again. I just find it baffling why he's not kind of celebrated as much by the media here. And it kind of reminds me of, remember Rooney at the World Euro 2004? His teenager stepped up, took the tournament by the horns. He's got that aura. He's got that attitude, right? He believes that he's the guy. And I don't see why we don't celebrate him as much, and why is even a debate as to why he's starting. The guy has to start, to be honest.
I mean, look, the English media have the faces that fit and the faces that don't fit. And that's just what it is. Like Rooney, face doesn't fit sometimes. So they say what they say about him. And it will be the same for Bellingham as well. Face doesn't fit. So they'll say what they say about you. Jordan Pickford has even been one that they were speaking bad about for a little while, because his face didn't fit, so they'll say what they say about you. So it's one of those, no, it's just what the English media do. It's just they target somebody, whoever it is, and they just say what they say.
You know what's crazy? During the game against Ghana, when Kane misses that chance, right, and he goes over the bar, I'm telling you now, and this is going to be controversial, but I don't care. If that was Saka, Madueke, Eze, I think we all know what the outcome would be.
Yeah, just say it. You're just saying if it's the black people.
Yeah. We all know what the social media outburst would be like. It's a fact. Unfortunately, it's a fact. We saw what happened in Euros. But you're right. So it's a really good point about the face doesn't fit. Harry Kane, the face fits. Gary Lineker, the face fits. And those two were loved by the media because they're almost like the good guys in the team.
That's it. That's what it is. It's all about, because weirdly, they're not maybe always looking at race, right? Although it plays a part.
Yeah.
They're probably looking at where you grew up, in the area you came from. And it goes that deep, and that's why your face doesn't fit. So they're just going to target you and just say whatever they want to say about you,
But
so
these players are like some of the best players your country's ever produced. Rooney, Mark Owen, Bellingham. I mean, come on, these guys, they play for massive clubs. Owen played at Madrid. Rooney played United for years. Bellingham is at Madrid. These are players that we should be saying, get behind these players, whether they're arrogant or not, but they earned it. They step up when it matters. They've got the ability. They're different from the other players, right? We've got to support them. And these guys, they could win us the World Cup. If Bellingham plays every game right and he keeps doing what he's doing, he could be the difference. He could win us the World Cup. Rooney didn't win a World Cup for England because of different reasons, and maybe he wasn't fit at the right time and different things. Owen was a star boy in '98 that fizzled out after a couple of years. So if Bellingham plays well, we could win the World Cup. And it's about moments, Flexx. As you mentioned, it's not always about performances. If we play badly, but we get a chance in the 80th minute and he scores it, we get through. That's what it's about. It's momentum. It's getting through. It's not about playing best all the time. But he's a moments player. He can step up in the big moments.
Let's be real, right? If, let's say, Kane has scored goals, right? But a scenario here. If Kane scored 0 goals and we ended up winning the World Cup, they would say it was because of Harry Kane. It won't be because of anyone else who scored the goals or whatever the case is. And we all know why. It's because his face fits. And that's just what it is. There's people that get targeted and there's people that don't get targeted. And that's just the game. And so we just got to accept that for what it is. And it's just English media being English media. But you know what? I wanted to touch on a point, right? I hear on radio, I hear on other podcasts that they always talk about how the Premier League has the best players. So England should be, going to the finals of the Euros or the World Cup and winning them. But the question I need to throw back at these people that say this is that the Premier League does have the best players, but how many of them are actually English? Because the reality is that the Premier League is great, not because of the English talent. It's because of the other talent that come to the Premier League. That's what makes the Premier League great. We're not sitting there watching whoever is English do a madness every week. That's not what makes it. And that's why you have this, I guess, illusion of England being or supposedly meant to be great. And it's like, well, not really. Because if you look at even like a good majority of the English clubs, how many of the English talent are the best players in those clubs?
No, it's a fact. It's facts. What you're saying is true, man. It's true. Even you can even look at it from the playing standpoint, but also the coaches. Like, how many great English coaches have we got in the Premier League? A lot of them are from other countries. But if you compare it to maybe, if I look at that period of the Spanish football between 2008 to 2012, right? If you look at that first 11, a lot of their players, I could probably say 3 players at the time playing in the Premier League. It might have been Fabregas maybe, or Alonso for a bit, maybe David Silva. But the majority of that Spanish team, from the goalkeeper up until the strikers, all played in La Liga, whether it's Madrid and Barcelona, whether it was Atletico Madrid. And that's why they were so good. And they, at that time, La Liga wasn't even considered the best league in the world. It was the Premier League. But they were winning the major trophies, the Euros and the World Cups, right? But when it comes to, I think they won the Euros in 2008, World Cup in 2010, and Euros in 2012. Like that's crazy when you think about it. But that team had a core and a spine of Madrid and Barcelona players, right? And again, it wasn't even considered the best league in the world, but they were so good. So you're right there. I think we do have this thing where we do feel like we should be winning it because of the players. But if you look at the first 11, though, Flexx, or the squad, right? And you made a good point. How many of those players picked in the England squad are actually the best players in the team? You might say Kane. You might say who else? Bellingham, Saka maybe, but Rice. But it's not many.
Do you know? It's not many. That's my point. You've probably got 3 players in your whole 26, 25-man squad that you can say they are top 2 in their club. 3 players. So what makes you think you're going to win the World Cup? Oh, because it's
coming home, isn't it?
It's coming home.
But listen, but you're right. Listen, England, it's not been pretty so far for sure. But I think when it comes to the knockouts, I think they'll step up. I think they have to step up. They've got no choice but to. They've got a coach that can do it. I think the only thing that probably concern me is just the defensive aspect of things, isn't it? I think Kwanzaa came in at right back against Panama. And I think he does chop and changes his backline a bit. So I think he's got to stick with someone. He's got to stick with, if it's Konza and Gahey or Stones and Gahey. I think Gahey has to play, but I think he's just got to stick with them and not chop and change.
Tuchel is moving with the ideology of horses for courses, right? So that's what it is. You know, depending on who we're playing is who I pick. So we'll see.
You'll see. So yeah, Congo, that's England's next game, Wednesday. That should be interesting, but you probably expect England to win that, but you never know. You never know. Congo, they're stubborn, aren't they?
Let's not say that. You know, there is no expectations. I'm
going to say it, man. If I look silly, I look silly. But
I mean, let's be honest. We've seen. Look, wasn't Alan Shearer said that England were going to smash Ghana 3-0. So these were the expectations of many, right? What happened?
I know England won't smash Congo, but you probably expect them to get through. Just get through.
I mean, if Congo are as resolute as Ghana was, and can take their chances when they happen, and maybe if Ghana had had the penalty that they should have had, would England have won?
No.
I don't know. It's still left to be debated, right? Because maybe Ghana would have scored, lapse of concentration, England score 1-1. Who knows? I don't know. But I wouldn't say just because of the talent England have or because it's a bigger nation compared to Congo that it's, you know, their right to win the game. At this point, anything can happen. It's knockout
You're forgetting, Flexx. You're forgetting against Ghana. We had the voodoo witch doctor who cursed Harry Kane.
He did. And he also did say Harry Kane will score in his next game. And he did. So Congo hit my man up.
Sure, I mean, he released Harry Kane, man. That's crazy, though, to be fair. But no, you're right. I think, listen, anything can happen in football. And again, I think that's the question that England are posed with, right? Can they break teams out that sit back and make it difficult? And against Ghana, they found it very, very hard to do so. So that's going to be a question that they have to answer. Tuchel's got to come up with solutions, and the players, again, have got to step up in these moments and make a difference. So that's going to be an interesting game on Wednesday for sure. But let's touch on Holland and Brian Bobby. And listen, he's been great. You know, had a great season at Sunderland. He's taken that into the World Cup. And you know, the thing I love about Bobby, right, I think he's got 3 goals in 3 appearances at this tournament so far. And the thing I love about Bobby is that his game is so simple but so effective. You know, it's holding off defenders, being powerful, running into the box, and getting on the end of stuff, right? And we saw that against, was it Sweden who they beat? 5-1, and a lot of the goals are similar. It was lay off the ball, be strong, lay off the ball, run into the box, and be on the end of stuff, which centre forward should be, right? And yeah, he's just been really, really good for Holland. And probably in recent times, I know Holland got to the Euros semi-finals, and I think they got to the quarterfinals of the, if I'm wrong, the World Cup in 2022. I think Argentina knocked them out.
Right.
But historically, Holland have always been a great side, and I think even in 2014 they did quite well with Van Gaal was there. Do you think that Holland could win the World Cup? I know, looking back at the teams I've had over the years, great players throughout the 90s and 2000s, but maybe in recent times they've not been considered as like a major nation to win a World Cup. What have you made of Brian Bobby, and also do you think they could be considered as a candidate for the World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, look, Brian Bobby's doing his thing. Very solid performances all around, always putting in 7s, 8s out of 10s, quite comfortably, to be fair, and against decent sides. So goes to show his form. He's taken it from the Premier League, and it's just following him throughout the World Cup. So kudos to him, and long may that continue. In regards to Holland, I guess you would call them dark horses to win the World Cup. They've got a very balanced squad across the pitch, so they do have every chance of making it deep into the tournament. And I wouldn't like to call it causing an upset, because historically Holland have always been a nation that people revered and respected in major tournaments. So maybe this just might be the time where, if they can get it all together and the path is fair to them and kind to them, then yeah, they could make it to a final.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think they've done really well so far. And again, like I mentioned, in recent times in different competitions, they've got to latter stages, they've got to semi-finals, been to quarterfinals, so they're not far off. It's not like they're leaving competitions at the group stage, right? So yeah, but Brian Bobby, for sure, like, he causes havoc. And again, I just love watching him play. He's just simple, but again, really, really effective there. And yeah, we'll see how Holland do get on there. But yeah, another guy who's doing well, Erling Haaland, stepping up for Norway. I know they lost to France in the last group game, but yeah, Haaland and Norway have actually done quite well so far, to be fair. And I know I mentioned him as one of the dark horses in the tournament. And yeah, Haaland's just taken that form from the Premier League season, taking it into the World Cup. I think actually for the World Cup sort of qualifying and the tournament so far, I think he's got 20 goals. I think he got 16 in the qualifying, and I think he's got 4 goals in this tournament so far. So the guy's just a goal machine, to be honest. What have you made of Norway so far?
Yeah, I mean, look, they've been decent. They haven't been like, oh my gosh, like, wow, look at Norway. Like, they've just been, they've done their jobs. That's all I can say. They've been effective, efficient. Haaland has been doing his thing. Odegaard's been playing very well. All of these players, and so yeah, like, I think for them, I think their aim and objective is probably round of 16. And anything else past that is a free hit and it's a bonus. So we'll see how it goes. They got to play the Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire. That's going to be a difficult game. They've got players that can hurt you, and so it'll be interesting to see how far that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's gonna be an interesting game. I think Norway, did they beat Senegal in the group stage as well, right?
I believe so. Yeah, they did.
Yes.
Comfortably as well.
Yeah. So, but I think again, when it comes to these knockout phases, it's just a different step up. But yeah, if they got Holland playing well, then they've got every chance of winning the game. But again, as you mentioned, Africans can cause problems as well, so that should be an interesting one to watch. One game I am looking forward to, as we finish off here, is Brazil against Japan. Now that's going to be a very good game. And Brazil, had a bit of a shaky start in the first match against Morocco, but yeah, they qualified obviously, and Cunha's been very good as well for Brazil. But yeah, Brazil against Japan, that's going to be a very good game, because Japan look very dangerous as well. And I think they'll give anyone a game throughout the tournament. And Brazil, as you know, historically have been a great World Cup side. But what have you made of Cunha and Brazil so far?
Good player, man. I mean, we knew this from when he was at Wolves. We knew this from when he made his move to Man United and just adapted very well to the circumstances out there. And he's earned his spot and earned his place in the team. He's had to wait, but he's proven that, the wait is worth the while, because he can do the business. So I think Brazil against Morocco was always going to be a challenging game. I don't think the Brazilians thought that, but they found out that, Morocco ain't no slouches. And to be fair, Morocco could have won that game quite comfortably if they had taken the chances that were generated. But nevertheless, Brazil have just been carrying on and doing their thing, and having Cunha just on the end of chances, creating his own chances, Vinny doing what he does. I think a player who's impressed me quite a bit and needs no introduction is Lucas Paqueta. I think he's done his thing. He's played very well throughout the tournament. I feel like, yeah, Brazil, they're there, but they're not the Brazil that we used to know. This is like a different version of Brazil, which is I guess, not so pleasing on the eye and
Yeah.
has a bunch of mistakes in them, but then they can generate opportunities to somewhat get through games and win games. So I don't think Brazil win the World Cup. I'm firmly saying that. I don't even think they make it to the semis. I think they'll
Really?
be out. Yeah, I think they'll be out the tournament by then.
Yeah, you're right about Brazil. They're not the Brazil we used to seeing over the years, right? I think that those Brazilian teams had flair, particularly in the ticket positions. They made everything look quite easy, right? But I think this Brazil team has probably got a lot of emphasis on like maybe the defensive aspect of things. You mentioned Paqueta there. They've got obviously Bruno Guimaraes in the team there as well. Cunha's done really well. Obviously Vini as well. But you look at the Morocco game and it felt as if it was individuals playing rather than the team, right? And Morocco were creating chance after chance. And perhaps Brazil relied on moments of brilliance from key players like Vini to get through the game. But no, you're right. I think Brazil probably would have bet on them to win the World Cup. Probably not. I still think they'll cause problems because it's the World Cup and it's Brazil. But yeah, when you compare them to teams of yesteryear, I think there's quite a big contrast, to be honest. But yeah, Brazil against Japan, that's going to be a very good game. Who do you think will win that game out of interest? I think Japan have a great chance to go through, But your mic's off.
Yeah, Japan have been balling, mate. They've been balling. So for me, that's no pushover game. That's a really, really tough, challenging game to go into. Japan are no slouches. And to be fair, if I'm just going off the eye test, what I've seen, I make Japan favorites over Brazil. If I'm just going based on what I've seen, if I look at this is Japan play how like I want Ghana to play. They're resolute when they need to be, and when they go forward, devastating.
Just a well-coached team, isn't it?
Yeah, well drilled in every department. They're very balanced. They don't have to be so attacking, so defensive, or whatever the case is. They are what they need to be in the moment of the game. They need to be whatever version of themselves they need to be. And so for me, I would make Japan favorites against Brazil, because if Brazil go to sleep, they will be punished. That's just what it is. And so that's the way I look at it. That's why I say I don't know, man. Brazil, maybe if they get through this, the furthest they go is the quarterfinals, and that's it.
Yeah, you're right. I think Japan look very good, very well drilled. They're going to watch them in the qualifying stages and the games prior to the World Cup. Just a really good team. Everyone does their jobs. Again, when they attack in full flow. When they defend, they're all together and resolute. But yeah, they'll give anyone a game. They've got so much energy, Japan, as well. So I think Brazil will probably struggle against a team that plays like that. That's a real team in terms of how they play. They're compact. They can attack from different angles and give you problems. And Mitoma's not even fit as well. Hasn't even played for Japan in this World Cup.
Crazy.
Yeah, and they've still got all this talent. So yeah, that's going to be a game I'm looking forward to for sure. But yeah, that's our mini roundup, guys, of the World Cup so far. I've got to remind you all as well, please like and subscribe. We have now surpassed 200 subscribers. So fantastic. Thank you all for subscribing and engaging with our content. We really do appreciate it. And again, as always, guys, we are on X, we're on Instagram, and also now on TikTok as well. And the handles will be in the description down below. Please follow us on all those platforms and just keep up with the engagement, guys, man. We love your comments on the videos as well, so keep doing that. But yeah, Flexx, man, it's been good as always to catch up. Hopefully Ghana can do well in the World Cup for next time we speak, and hopefully England can get through against Congo. But yeah, man, Flexx, thanks for joining me as always. And then, guys, we'll see you in the next episode.